Okay, so with all the talk around game key cards for the Switch 2, of course, when a third party decides to buck the trend and actually put the entire game on a single cartridge, seems to make headlines. So, of course, when you have a third party company put two versions of the game on one cartridge, I mean, it got my attention. So I wanted to check out today this Rune Factory Guardians of Azuma game. I'm not a big Rune Factory fan at all, but I will say I was just curious to see exactly what they were doing here and how it worked, which means, yes, we are going to cut the cartridge open and see if it's comparable to any of the other cartridges that we've already opened, which includes Cyberpunk, a game key card, and even Mario Kart World. So let's take a look at how Marvelous got a Switch 1 and a Switch 2 game on this single cart here today. So if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe if you're new. So first, let's take a look around the game itself, the package that it comes in here. Guardians of Azuma, the Switch 2 logo at the top. At the bottom, there's a very small print here that says includes the Switch game and Switch 2 edition upgrade pack. Marvelous has already gone on record explaining that that upgrade pack, while it's shown in the eShop, it is here fully on the cartridge. They did also say they are using a 64GB cartridge to make this happen, and as we know at this point, there are two different cartridges that Nintendo is offering people, either a 64GB cart or a game key card. Not really anything in between, despite if you look on the eShop, the file sizes for this, I think the Switch 1 version of this game is like 6GB, and the Switch 2 version is 17GB, which means they'd probably be able to get away with, say, a 32GB cartridge for this package without any real issue there. Now, the pricing structure is the Switch 1 version at $60, the Switch 2 version at $70, or of course then the difference being the upgrade pack at $10. So this version, the Switch 2 one, is $70 all in. So you should be able to buy this, use it on your Switch 1, and then also use it on your Switch 2. Kind of a way to future-proof if you want to play this game now on your Switch 1 physically, but then maybe be able to use it on a Switch 2 down the road that, say, you get during the holidays or just later on in general. Now, when you do open this up, I was shocked, people. There is a manual in here. And you know what? It's not one of those phoned-in manuals where it's like 3 pages, black and white, without any real effort put into it, and half of it's like the safety and fine print stuff in there. No, this thing is actually calling back to the old days. I mean, it's 33 pages. There's even a notes section in the back. Remember those days where you turn all the way to the back and you write stuff in it, and if you bought a used game, you might go to the back and find some cheat codes or something. Yeah, that's all here. So this is actually a pretty good piece to have alongside of course, the red cartridge. We do have some reverse cover art here, which it's cool to have it. It's a little more difficult to see clearly through the transparent red plastic, but I'd rather have it than not. It's just another fun extra thing to have with this physical edition. It's cool to see Marvelous kind of taking this a bit seriously because it makes me wonder about their other games they have coming up, especially with the Daemon X Machina, that sequel. Maybe they'll do something really cool with the case and manual there. And then, of course, we can take a look at the red cartridge itself. It's pretty minimalist design overall, but again, the idea here is this cartridge will work in Switch 1 and Switch 2. So what I decided to do was put both into airplane mode to make sure it was reading completely off the cartridge and not trying to do any funny business there of having to grab information from the internet and then do a quick patch or something to make it work. So airplane mode on, Switch 1 version here, pop it in, came right up without any issues. It was calling for an update. It seemed like it was looking for one, but again, airplane mode, no Wi-Fi, so it wasn't able to do it. But I was able to launch it, and after lengthier load times, which is funny now going back to Switch 1 versions of games on the Switch 1, it's like, oh yeah, these load times were kind of long at times. I was able to go through the opening segment and get into the game without any issues. So yes, it does work here. This red Switch 2 cartridge just fine on the Switch 1. So the initial test here did pass fine. Of course, now we can move over to the Switch 2, which again, airplane mode on, cartridge goes in, pops up. Also, though, calling for an update, which we'll get to that here in a few minutes, but the game was able to launch faster load times, of course, than going through into gameplay, and it looked cleaner. It played a bit smoother as well. It wasn't anything groundbreaking where it was like, wow, look how different this looks. But I was also going from, I will say, the Switch OLED, the OLED screen does a lot to try to equalize a bit when it comes to just the image itself and how appealing it can look, especially for something with this sort of art style. But the Switch 2 version, again, it was running smoother. It looked a bit better there on that larger 1080p display. Now, things get a little interesting when you turn on Wi-Fi. Now, the Switch 1 version does have an update, but it's a pretty small one. It doesn't take more than a couple of seconds to update, and then you're off and running. Seems to be more like bug fixes, that sort of thing. The Switch 2 version, though, I was a little shocked. I turned on Wi-Fi, and all of a sudden, it was downloading something that took about 10 minutes. And after it had completed, which I went ahead and just plugged into LAN on the dock to make it go faster. When it completed, I looked, it was 12 gigabytes, which is very strange because when you start doing the math, that's kind of like the upgrade packs almost. It's the difference between the Switch 1 version and the Switch 2 version, just about. So after looking into this, which I did fire it up on the Switch 2, and yeah, I mean, it still looked the same as I already had it. So after looking into this a bit, it seems like there's some kind of bug going on right now for the Switch 2 version of this game, and I think maybe others that'll be coming in the future. Of course, these companies get away from being so gung-ho about game key cards, and I guess even also Switch 1 cards that have a bunch of updates. So what happens is, if the latest update isn't on that cartridge, it seems like it calls to the server to get all the updates, and in this case for Rune Factory, would include those upgrade packs. So yes, despite the game being fully playable off of the cartridge, and in fact already kind of being in the Switch 2 mode, it still looks for these upgrade packs to download fully, populating 12 gigabytes of storage on your system or SD card. Now, it seems like something that Marvelous is trying to work out, but it also seems like something maybe that's happening just with the Switch 2 in general, as apparently people are noting this for just Switch 1 games. So it's something I guess maybe Nintendo has to work out, but nonetheless, if everything that they're saying lines up, we should have a 64 gigabyte cartridge here, and that's at least somewhat easy to figure out because we can, of course, just open it up. So for this one, I decided we'll start at the top, and I wanted to try to still keep it somewhat closed by leaving the bottom attached. So after I sort of worked around at the top, I was able to open it up at the top there, and then have that chip kind of fall out a bit. And because I'm able to do this, it still closes much easier, and I'm thinking just a couple of dabs of super glue around the top edge should seal it completely. But as we can see here with the chip in front of us and kind of zoomed in, yeah, it appears to be a 64 gigabyte cartridge. In fact, it's just about directly comparable to the Mario Kart World chip that I opened up not too long ago. And you know what? I have to hand it to Marvelous here because they are going the route that people are asking for, as in, I don't want a game key card. I would legitimately rather spend more money to have everything on the cartridge. And here, they just gave you the option to buy a Switch 1 and Switch 2 version on one cartridge using the 64 gigabyte storage size, and it's there at $70. So, I mean, whether people are bluffing or not, they're calling it there. And in fact, it seems like they're going to be doing this strategy going forward for a bunch of other games that they have. And maybe in their mind, hey, if we can just get to a position where these 64 gigabyte cards are manufactured more and more, the pricing structure will go down for them and will make it more approachable for publishers pretty much across the industry to opt for these as opposed to game key cards. But even with that in mind, I still have to give them a little extra credit for going as far as to put a manual in there. And I know it sounds like a little thing, but it does go a long way in an industry that's pretty much completely devoid of them. Like, you open up a game, you open up these cases now, and more times than not, there's just nothing in those little tabs at the top here, right? Usually it's just empty. But in this case, they have a nice full-size colored manual there. So again, I have to give them credit on this, and it makes me a little more interested in some of their physical releases down the line, like Daemon X Machina that's coming up. But let me know what you guys think about this one down below with Rune Factory Guardians of Azuma. Do you prefer this strategy? Did you pick up any of these Switch 2 enhanced games like Rune Factory? And were you surprised when it started to download a 12 gigabyte patch? Well, we'll see if Marvelous can figure that one out. Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.